Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers, FantasyGuru.com. New time, same old greatness, goodness, all that kind of stuff with the show here. Monday through Friday for Fantasy Sports Daily. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Find me over there all the time answering your baseball questions, your football questions, helping you rock and roll, set lineups, make roster moves, make trades, do drafts. We got you covered over at FantasyGuru.com. This show is Fantasy Sports Daily with the new time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every day, Monday through Friday. That's 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Monday through Friday, we'll be here rocking and rolling. This week is a little bit different because of the fact that we're dealing with the holiday and trying to balance out things. And as I've noted here, I'm actually trying to get a day off on Friday, which would be my first full day off for non-emergency purposes in 2024. So we're trying to make that happen here. What we're doing this week is on Friday. We're gonna have the show, so don't worry. Friday and Thursday both will have the show. On Friday, I'm going to review my FSGA football draft. So my 14-team PPR league, the Champions League. We covered it live on SiriusXM, but I'm going to spend a good 45 minutes breaking down why I did what I did, how it was different than what I normally do, how the build I think worked. So we'll discuss that on Friday here on the show. And then on Thursday on the show, to celebrate July 4th and the birthday of America, I'm going to talk about the SiriusXM all-time fantasy baseball squad. You might have heard us talking about this, Justin Fenster and myself, on Elite Sports Game Time. You might have heard us making picks. You might have heard other people on the channel making picks. You may not have SiriusXM. You may be unaware of the fact that we were doing an all-time fantasy baseball draft. What were the rules? What was it all about? Who did we create a team? Justin and I had a team. Who did we pick? On Thursday, there'll be a 45, 50-minute show talking about that as well. So Thursday, Friday will be tape delayed. They'll be good to go on-demand kind of shows. That is not the norm. I think that'll only be the second and third time in the 175 episodes we haven't been live here. So Thursday, Friday, the show will be on. The show will be live, but I won't be answering questions. Whereas today, and almost every other day, 99% of the time, you leave a comment. You can do that on the YouTube page at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can do it on Facebook at facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. You leave a comment there. We see it live on the show and we talk about it. So that's always an added benefit for those of you that are able to watch live, the ability to interact, ask those questions. The show is obviously always stored. Go to fantasyguru.com, click the Elite Plus tab in the top toolbar. It takes all of our podcasts there. You can find all the shows catalog there. And again, you can go to youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork to find the shows there. And also just type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your local podcast network. And remember, if you want to watch live, we are now 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. All right, what are we talking about today? Here's what we're talking about today. It's a Monday, so we're going to talk a little FAAB. In a little bit, we'll talk Tout, LABR, and FSGA, go in a little bit of depth as to who was added this week, why they were added, was a good move, what was the price point, that kind of thing. We'll talk about injuries. I think not a lot of injuries. I didn't want to. There's always injuries. I didn't want to talk a lot about injuries today, to be quite honest. So didn't put a lot of guys on there, but there's a theme that we need to talk about, so we'll get to that. Performance-wise, James Wood's up today, folks. Arguably the number one prospect in baseball we haven't seen yet. We'll talk who he is, what expectations should be, that kind of a thing. We'll talk about Eddie Rosario, Nick Castellanos, Trey Turner, some veterans that are starting to improve things a little bit. Randy Arozarena, Wyatt Langford, who's suddenly on fire. Ranger Suarez, Kevin Gausman, Gerritt Cole, Paul Sewald, hey. So we'll talk about those guys as well as taking your comments, questions, and all those things. Remember, it is July 1st. Happy July 1st. The first day of every month, which it still includes this month. It'll include August and it'll include September. I update the rankings over at fantasyguru.com for the seasonal baseball setup. So all 600-plus players, it's a complete teardown, a complete redo. Those rankings will be posted today. If you have questions, we can obviously talk about those in the Discord, or you can even talk to me about them here tomorrow on the show. But those will be posted later today. I'll also, I hope, be able to get to the solds rankings. I'm trying to do both since I encourage everyone to do solds, which is saves plus holds, to do solds instead of saves. I know that most people, if not everyone, really uses saves. But for those of you that are in solds leagues, I think it's valuable for me to have giving you rankings because I'm pushing you to do it too. So those will hopefully be up today in a separate or in an article over at the website. My by the numbers pieces are available over at fantasyguru.com. They all dropped 10,000 words, something like that. Looking back at all the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end news that you need to know from 2023. What happened that you forgot about, what happened that you weren't aware of. That's part of the draft guide over at fantasyguru.com. Remember, the draft guide for football is not a preseason product. It is a full season, nuts to bolts product all the way through the regular season. That gets you all the articles we write. That gets you all the rankings we write. That gets you access to the Discord so you can constantly ask questions about trades, waiver wire pickups, start sits each week. The rankings right now include Dynasty, Rookie, PPR, non-PPR, IDP. We've got auction values. We talk about 2 quarterback leagues, super flex leagues, the live chat all day long. You can ask questions just like you can on the baseball side of things. The live stream, all of that. Speaking of that, by the way, just as a quick program note before we get to it today. Finally, Wednesdays, we have on about a half hour into the show. So starting at 12:30 Eastern time now. Wednesdays are Arnold Marsaul. He'll be on this week. Thursdays are Tyler Beaker. Fridays are Russell Clay. Those 2 guys won't be on this week because, again, we're recording those 2 final shows of the week. But next week, they'll return about a half hour in. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday each week, we talk football. The rest of the time, we talk baseball here on the show. Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk some baseball here. James Wood is being called up. And I guess it was officially happened here just within the last hour. We heard news that this was going to happen last week. As I noted, James Wood is a special talent. And we'll get into it in a second. Here's my preseason scouting report for James Wood. This is directly lifted, and you can still find those. Go to the top of the page, MLB, seasonal, rookies. You can navigate to it and still see all of it. Here's my actual scouting report from him back in January or whenever it actually was posted. A mountain of a man/kid at 6'6" and 240 pounds. His power is predictably off the charts, like 75-80 kind of stuff. A reminder, on the grading scale that scouts use, 20 to 80 are the numbers they use. 20 means you're horrible. 30 means you're crap. 35-40 means you're average. 50 means you're pretty good. 60 means you're really good. 70 is outstanding. And 75-80 doesn't happen. Okay. So when you hear scouts say he's on the 75-80 power scale, I mean, 40-plus home runs is where this guy should end up. He predictably draws, and I'll go back to reading what my scouting report was. Predictably draws comps to Adam Dunn, the guy who hit 38 home runs in 7 straight years for his size and power, as well as his patience, which led to walks, 12% walk rate, and some strikeouts, 30% strikeout rate. Given his sheer size, Wood has struggled to cover all 4 quadrants of the zone and even expand the zones at times, which he just can't do given his size and his strike zone. Don't mistake this report to suggest he's a lumbering behemoth, though, as he rates a 60-plus as a base runner and in the field. He's an impressive overall athlete who could play center field and go 30-30 one day at 250 pounds. We have not seen many guys like this. Now, O'Neal Cruz and Ellie De La Cruz, similar, right? Like this new wave of player in the Major League Baseball that we've seen guys that are 6'6", but normally they're the Ryan Howard, Adam Dunn types. We haven't seen too many Ellie De La Cruz, O'Neal Cruz, James Wood types, right? We're starting to see that now more. So the bottom line is Wood is being promoted. James Wood will play every day. In fact, and I had someone ask me this, and so I looked it up. James Wood's set to face 3 lefties here to start this week for the Nationals. And it's like, why the hell would they call up a lefty swinger in Wood, who's only 21 years old, to face lefties? His OPS in the minors this year against lefties is over 1,000. Pretty damn good. So where is he at performance-wise this season? Well, he dealt with some injury recently, but he's back from that now. Obviously, they feel comfortable where he's at physically. His performance in 52 games at AAA has been spectacular. 10 home runs, 10 steals, batting .350. So let's call that 30-30, 350. Yeah, pretty good. In terms of the walk rate, 17%. And again, this is a continuation of his ability to generate walks. His patience is excellent. Now, the main difference between the minors and the majors, I say it all the time. The main difference is obviously if there's a spot the size of a baseball where you have a hole in your swing, the major league pitchers will hit the spot. The minor league pitchers will be around the spot, but they won't necessarily hit the spot. So you always wonder a little bit about how do the walk and strikeout rates transition to the big leagues for a player, especially someone who some sources say James Wood's 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", he's huge. Huge strike zone, right? It's not Ozzie Albies up there. So there is that. What I can say is that to date, he's always controlled the strike zone well. He's always walked a ton. His strikeout rate has been pretty aggressive. And again, a young guy learning the ropes at the major league, at the professional level, Okay. Really interesting this year, his strikeout rate is 18%. And we're talking about him being in that 28-30% range coming into the season. He's down at 18% right now, which is really good news. He's obviously driven the baseball. His isolated power mark is 240. One thing to note with him, and I hate to do this, but maybe it's a good thing because this guy is killing it right now, and we'll talk about him later in a few minutes. There's a lot of Vladimir Guerrero going on here. Despite all the numbers, despite all the success he's had this year, his ground ball rate this year at AAA is 52%. Ugh. His fly ball rate this year at AAA is, wait for it. Remember, you guys ever seen Hamilton? It's a great musical in my opinion. Wait for it, wait for it. 18%. His fly ball rate is 18%, which is hideous. Oof. So though he's on a 30 home run pace, he's only on a 30 home run pace right now because of a 37% home run to fly ball ratio, which is, say it with me, impossible. So what we've got in Wood is we've got a tremendous talent, a guy with power and speed, a guy that's going to play every day, a guy that shouldn't be platoon. A guy could be a difference-making player, period. He could be a difference-making player in the fantasy space in the second half of the season. He's making good contact. He's controlling the strike zone well. He's not lifting the baseball. Is he big and strong enough to still hit home runs like Vlad Guerrero, even he doesn't lift the... Yes. The bottom line is James Wood, who I will run through FAAB here later, unless I've lost my mind. I don't think that there was a single league where he was available this week. I think in all my leagues he was drafted and held on to. Again, I'm in 14, 15-team leagues. My setups are different, obviously, than everyone else. Maybe he's available in your league. If he is, he's a below the budget player. He's a 50% of your budget kind of guy. Now, whether that happens or not, well, James, we had Jackson Holiday, yeah. Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, who we'll talk about in a minute, was terrible the first half. Just because Wood is this guy that could be a difference-making player who could legitimately the rest of the way hit 15 home runs and steal 15 bases. It's a rookie, first time through the league. So that caveat is there. But yeah, I'm talking 40, 50% of your budget. That's what it's likely to have cost your league last night if he was available. And I could understand why you would have done that if indeed you did do that. So if he's on the waiver wire, I got a couple questions already this morning about adding him. Even in the 10-team league, you add him. Whether it works out or not, we'll see. But his talent is worth betting on. James Wood, add everywhere, regardless. Okay. The Nationals, as a result of this, will actually move on from Eddie Rosario. He's been DFA'd, I think it was DFA'd. The interesting thing with Rosario is that his slash line is horrendous. He's hitting 180 with a 329 slugging percentage. Like, he's terrible. The funny thing is, though, his exit velocity numbers is the best of his career. His batted ball data stacks up very favorably to all those years where he was hitting 20 home runs. So someone will add him. Maybe, and I saw this, thrown out there, maybe the Braves will bring him back because Acuna's out. Obviously, they're dealing with the injury right now to Michael Harris too. Maybe he goes back to the Braves and figures it out and all that. Rosario is somebody that, if you're in a league-only setup, would be very attractive to me, depending upon where he ends up and what his playing time is going to look like. In a mixed league scenario, it's pretty tough to envision him, at least at this point, being anything other than a platoon guy. And even in that scenario, maybe not a full-time, maybe not really, because he's been so bad. But again, the batted ball data is very good. So maybe he figures it out. Maybe the results start to match the batted ball data, and we got something here moving forward. All right. Let's talk about Nick Castellanos. And I was having a discussion in Discord this morning about Castellanos. Castellanos went 4 for 5 on Sunday, had a double, 3 RBIs, even stole a base. And while we can look at Castellanos and say that his season has been disappointing, and that's completely accurate, we can say that, this is, guy's got 11 home runs, he's hitting 230. Okay. The last month, he's hitting 276 with 18 RBIs. That works. Okay. The last 2 weeks, he has been killing it. The last 2 weeks in 13 games, he's got 12 RBIs. He's batting .380. He's got an OPS of over 1,000. He's part of an excellent lineup with the Phillies. Obviously, the Phillies are down for the moment, and it's expected to be short-term with Schwarber and Harper. But down with those guys for the moment, so Castellanos is going to move up in the order and be in a more run-producing spot. He's seemingly hitting really well. He's been himself the last month, if you look at the numbers. In the last 2 weeks, he's been fantastic. So there's very reasonable chance he's on the waiver wire in your league because, again, the overall numbers are very bleh. And the funny thing is the overall numbers are very blah. And he's still basically on pace to hit 20 home runs with 80 RBIs and 80 runs scored. You know, that's not that bad. Is he a 230 hitter? No. And again, he's hitting .380 the last 2 weeks, hitting .276 the last 3 weeks. So if he continues to be the 20-80-80 guy, which I think is very reasonable, and he's a .275 hitter, which again I think is reasonable, and that's the guy you're getting right now, yeah, the overall numbers might not get 100 RBIs, and he's not going to hit 30 home runs. And okay, not going to be great, but it's certainly playable. And again, he's available on waiver wires, Nick Castellanos. Justin Turner. Justin Turner has had a fascinating season. His first month of the season was terrific. Then he was arguably the worst everyday hitter in baseball. Because he doesn't produce anything with his legs. He wasn't driving any runs in. He wasn't even getting base hits. He was hitting 100. Like, he was horrendous. And we talked about him here on the show, and I wrote about him over at fantasyguru.com. And the thing is that when you're the player who's basically 40 years old and you're doing this, it's like, is it just over? And we looked at the data and we're like, well, it should be better than this, but it's hard to get interested or excited about this. All fair to say, when I said it, that's why I said it. Last 2 weeks, hitting .389 with an 1,100 OPS. He's 7 for his last 13, or 7 for the last 21, so he hit .333 last week. If you go back further now, we had a great month, a crappy month, and a really good 3 weeks. The last 3 weeks, he's hitting .329 with a 900 OPS. So, again, I actually added him. We'll talk about him in a minute here. I added him in the FSGA league where someone had him and dropped him. I added him in the I actually dropped him in Tout Wars because, again, I kept him. He hit 120 for a month. Like, he just killing me on the bench. I got injuries everywhere. I got to make a move. He was the guy I let go. A week or two later, I added him back because it's like I noticed he's starting to hit again. So now he's back on my team. So I now have him on my Tout Wars team and my FSGA team. But he's certainly a potential waiver wire guy. And his overall numbers are poor. And even with the .329 average and the .903 OPS the last 23 games, still only has 1 home run and 6 RBIs. So let's not get excited here. But for those people looking for corner infield help, especially if you're in an on-base percentage league, Justin Turner is viable once again. Randy Arozarena, is it happening, folks? It's happening. Yeah. Batting average is still 196. He was so bad for so long. He's still hitting 196. But he is up to 11 home runs and 10 steals, again, putting him on pace to continue the 2020 performance that he's had the last 3 years. If you look at his effort the last 2 weeks, he's hitting over 300 with a 950 OPS. If you back that up to look at the last month of time, hitting 290 with an 892 OPS, that's prime Randy Arozarena production, and that's a month of data right now. So this is, I think, more than anything, kind of one of those continue to have patience with guys. And I've said this all along. It's not about, is Arozarena going to be the guy we expected to be on draft day? Because he's going to have to hit 320 the rest of the way to get his average there. And he's not going to have enough power or speed to go 30-30, and we can say, oh, he hit 220, who cares? He is not going to live up to my personal expectations. And unfortunately, that means for a lot of you, because I'm sure you drafted him on my recommendation, he's not going to live up to that guy. Is he still going to go 20-20 with health? Yeah, as I said all along, I still think he's going to do that. If he hits 258 the rest of the way, which is Randy Arozarena, yeah, right? So this is not about can he get back to where we expected him to be. This is can he be that guy moving forward? He can be that guy moving forward. And quite honestly, he's really been that guy for the past month, even if his overall numbers are still really poor. Wyatt Langford is a fascinating fella. So let's talk about him for a second. He hit for the cycle yesterday. And he was, we've gone over and over and over here, and I won't sit here and belabor the point with him because we talked about him last week, if I'm not mistaken. He was also in an article over at fantasyguru.com last week. It just didn't happen for him at the start. and then he got hurt. And here we go. In June, because we just turned to July today, right? In June, he hit 280 with a 350 on base percentage and a 450 slugging percentage. He drove in 18 runs and had 6 steals in 25 games. There he is, folks. That's the guy you drafted. That's the guy that tore up the minors last year. That's the guy that tore up the spring this year. That's the guy you drafted in the 5th round this year. There he is. Now, the first 2 months were not good at all. They were very Randy Arozarena-like, but worse because he wasn't stealing bases, right? But he's found his groove. And this, again, is about patience, especially with young players. Did you draft Langford in a non-keeper scenario and drop him? Or did you hold on? This is what could happen to James Wood. James Wood could do the exact same thing, come up and struggle. Jackson Holiday came up and struggled. Let's hope that it's the other direction. Let's hope that Wood hits the ground running and does his things and hope he doesn't look like Lawrence Butler to start. Could happen. In the case of Langford, we are at the point now where everything seems to be clicking. Now we need Adolis Garcia to start clicking, and we'll talk about him here in a few minutes. We need Corey Seager to be okay. And Evan Carter to come back from injury. The Rangers still trying to piece this together, but Langford is doing his part at the moment, and that's really intriguing to see. Ranger Suarez has been spectacular. And everything I'm about to say does not take away from anything that's already happened, where he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball and one of the best values in baseball, because if he was drafted in your league, it almost certainly was a reserve round pick. There's a very good likelihood, depending upon everything that your league's about, that he wasn't even rostered, right? So he goes out on Sunday against the Marlins, and woof city. 6 runs allowed, 9 hits, and 4 2/3 innings. That's bad enough. That's a really bad effort. We saw a lot of bad efforts this week. You know, John Gray, Miles Mikolas, a bunch of bad efforts this week. He walked 2 and didn't strike out a batter. And that's the first time in his career that he started a game and didn't have a strikeout. Now, he's not a strikeout guy, right? He's not a big strikeout, but that's not good, okay? And, you know, you start to worry a little bit, as we have discussed all season long, and, you know, this unfortunately happens. Guys, for the most part, eventually return to being who they are. It's rare that someone pulls a Max Muncy, right, where they're kind of a nobody for years, and then all of a sudden, right? It's rare that you put is Jerks and Profar doing that now? Maybe. That's rare that's going to happen. Ranger Suarez has always been a very good pitcher, but there's a difference between being a good pitcher and being elite. Well, Ray, in 2021, yeah, he made 12 starts. Okay? All right. He worked 27 times out of the bullpen or whatever the number was. This year, his numbers, even with this spectacular meltdown, he still has a whip of .98, and his ERA is 2.27. Now, we talked about it a lot. His xERA is 3/4 of a run higher than his raw ERA. That's a significant increase. His Sierra is almost a full run above his raw ERA. He's a tremendous ground ball pitcher, well over 50%. He's got an above average strikeout rate. He's kept the walks completely in control. He's been a league average walk guy for his entire career. When you're a league average walk guy and you don't strike a lot of guys out and you get ground balls, you're Marcus Stroman. Totally fine to be Marcus Stroman. He's a guy we've used for years in fantasy, and he's very good. But that's different than being Greg Maddux. And Ranger Suarez, to date, had basically been Greg Maddux, right? So yesterday was it one of those outings? Very easily can make that argument. It happens to everybody, right? We talk about it all the time. But it is a concern that in his last 2 outings, he has now given up 17 base hits in less than 11 innings of work. In 10 2/3 innings of work, he's given up 10 runs. Again, 4 strikeouts in 10 innings. So, you know, so we'll keep an eye on things with him in his next start. His next start is way more important than it should be, given his overall body of work this season, which, again, has been spectacular. He is set to face the Cubs in Chicago. We'll see how that goes, right? Close eye on that one, because he doesn't have the pure stuff to be able to work around a lack of control. Otherwise, he becomes Marcus Stroman. And again, a 3.9 ERA and a 1.29 whip is fine. Very different than what we've seen from him to date. Let's talk about another guy that struggled yesterday, but unlike Ranger Suarez, who's been good for most of the season, he's been a banger most of the season. Kevin Gausman it's all over the place. And remember, he had the shoulder issue when the season began, and he said he was fine, and the team said he was fine, and they slow played it. They gave him a little bit of time at the start of the season. We had a little bit of concern when the injury came out that it was going to be something that cost him. It didn't, right? He missed, one or two starts, I forget, but he basically was fine. Hasn't been fine, though. And I don't know if it's the shoulder still or what, but his velocity is down. His spin rate is down. His control is down. He allowed 7 runs yesterday in 4 1/3 innings. Now, it's against the Yankees, okay. But he walked 5 guys. Like, this is just, the velocity is off. And when you're really leaning on 2 pitches, the fastball and the splitter, when one of them's not reacting as necessary, it's tough to be successful. And that's just where we're at with Kevin Gausman. It's not a scenario where I would say, looking at Kevin Gausman, that I'm telling you, go get Kevin Gausman. Like, if someone else has got him on the trade block, you got to get him. I'm not saying that. If the price is right, okay. But I'm not saying he's someone we aggressively target. If you have Kevin Gausman, you don't drop Kevin Gausman. You don't give him away for 30 cents on the dollar. But, it's like he is trending toward league average pretty quickly here. And it's 17 starts in. This is not 7. It's 17 starts, half a season. And you look at his performances of late, and, he had a great effort against the Athletics. He had 9 innings shutout, 10 strikeouts, complete game. Fantastic. His other starts around that, the one before that against Baltimore was 6 runs. Then he went 5 innings against Cleveland, was effective, gave up 3 runs. 5 2/3 against Boston, tough matchup, 5 runs. Faced Boston again, through 6 innings, 4 runs. And then last time out was 7 runs. So if you look at his last 4 outings, in 21 innings, he's given up 19 runs. And he's walked 9 guys with about a 2.2 strikeout to walk ratio, which is worse than the league average, which is very difficult to work long term. And for a guy whose career mark is 3.7, you see the problem. So in the case of Gausman, who's he facing next? Gausman is set to face, he's pitching in Seattle. So he's facing a lineup that strikes out a lot. He's facing a lineup that is not consistent top to bottom in Seattle, and he's facing a lineup in the best park in baseball to pitch in. So we're still starting Kevin Gausman this week if he makes that start in Seattle. But it's getting a little dicey with Kevin Gausman, but you probably already know that if you have him on your squad. Gerritt Cole allowed 3 hits and a walk across 5 innings Sunday as the Yankees defeated the Blue Jays. We were just talking about it. He allowed 1 run and struck out 6. He started out kind of slow, and it was then all of a sudden he seemed to kind of click in. His fastball velocity was good. He showed command of the secondary pitches, which was something that wasn't quite there the first couple of times he took the hill. He threw 90 pitches, so we're looking good here. It's not prime mid-career Cy Young winning Gerritt Cole, but it's a step in the right direction because we were able to avoid the walk and control those secondary pitches, because we were able to go deeper into the games with him. You got to feel pretty good about where he's at right now. He does face Boston in his next outing if they stay on track, and I say if because, these guys never stay on track. But that's not, so it's a tough matchup. He pitched effectively against Baltimore the first time back. The second time back, he gave up 6 runs against the Mets, was all over the place, gave up 4 runs, was a mess. Yesterday looked much more comfortable, much more like himself. Did still hit 2 guys with a pitch, so still a little bit of wonkiness here. That next outing will be challenging. If I had Gerritt Cole, I'm starting him. But it is not an easy matchup. That'll be a really good test. Love seeing the fact to get up to 90 pitches. And then finally, I wanted to mention Paul Sewald. We have a lot of talk, and again, I'll update the Solds rankings hopefully later today over at fantasyguru.com. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot up and down at the closer position. It's been fairly consistent this year compared to some other years through half the year. It's actually been pretty consistent. The top half of the league has kind of been the same. Paul Sewald's been the guy as long as he's been healthy this year with the Diamondbacks. On Sunday, he pitched a perfect inning. That is 17 consecutive outings for Paul Sewald without giving up a run. The last time he gave up a run was on his season debut on May 8th. He's 11 for 11 in save chances. His ERA is 0.5. His whip is 0.5. And he's got a 5-1 strikeout to walk ratio. He has been fantastic. Now, he missed a month and a quarter, so he's only got 11 saves instead of 15. But he is pitching great. And there's always some concern with Paul Sewald because of his advancing age, because he doesn't have 99-mile-an-hour stuff, because he pitches a little bit more than he stuffs, and as a closer, we kind of like the stuff guys, but just been fantastic. I just wanted to give a little shout out to him because he's kind of boring and no one ever talks about him, but he's pitching as well as anybody in terms of run prevention. So I wanted to mention him there. All right, let's talk a little bit about injuries before we discuss FAAB. And again, we'll get to your comments and questions here. Don't worry, toward the end of the show. You see it there on the screen if you're watching. Mitch Garver, Corey Seager, and Vlad Guerrero. And they all have a slash mark instead of commas, which is normal. And it's like, guys, we've had this discussion. And for the most part, guys have been okay. But Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge, you got to turn your shoulder in when the pitch comes inside. Garver, Seager, Vlad all did the whoa and all got hit. You got to turn your shoulder and take it off your shoulder. And again, I get frustrated with this. Not facing 97-mile-an-hour fastballs, not facing 86-mile-an-hour sliders. I have no idea. I might do this exact same thing, maybe. But I'll tell you, I started learning this, as we discussed on this show, when I was 11 years old. Okay? If it's something that you learn from a young age and you do it and you do it and you do it and you do it, it's your reaction becomes what you do. Why is everyone's reaction to do this? Why? Wow. Number one, if you go like this, you're exposing your hands. Number two, if you do this, you have no chance. What if it's a curveball? At least if you start to turn your shoulder in and it's a curveball, you still can fight it off, right? Theoretically. I don't know if you really could. But you know what I'm saying? You're still over the plate and you're still balanced versus it doesn't make any sense. And there's enough injuries with guys running around first base or diving for a ball in the outfield or throwing a baseball. There's enough injuries out there that we can't have guys on a daily basis getting hurt because they're olaying it out of the way of a fastball. Turn your damn shoulder in. Learn the fundamentals of the game. It's so frustrating as somebody who was a good athlete, who had aspirations, and I told this story too. My dad had a car accident when I was in high school, and so, saying I could be a pro baseball player, come on, Ray. Could have definitely played Division I baseball. Okay, I could, and I'm pretty positive I could have been a minor league baseball player. I was really good. I learned the fundamentals. I could never run like Ellie De La Cruz or throw a fastball like Gerritt Cole like that. Those guys are on a different planet for me, right? I would have been a ham and egger making $18,000 a year. Okay. But I learned the fundamentals, man. And these guys, they're so incredibly talented, but they don't have the fundamentals. And I want them to be on the field for the sport. I want them to be on the field for their teams. And obviously for us in the fantasy game. Turn your damn shoulder in. Jeez, it's frustrating. Let's talk about Justin Verlander, who's had the neck issue, who was fine. Then the neck issue, they said he was still fine, but they put him on the injury list. Then they said he's still fine, but then it's taking him longer than expected to come back from his neck issue. The good news is that he finally started playing catch again. Huge difference between playing catch and throwing a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. He's been on the injury list for about, 2 weeks now, and he's starting to play catch. What does this mean? We don't really have a definitive return date for Justin Verlander. It is now July. The All-Star game is coming up. It's very reasonable to think at this point we're not going to see him before the All-Star break, that they're going to bring him back after the All-Star break, so probably still 3 weeks. That's my guess. I hope that's accurate. I hope it's not 4 weeks or 6 weeks. We just don't really know what's going on. Moving in the right direction, but there's still a lot of that direction to go before we get him back out on the field. Again, Fantasy Sports Daily here. I'm Ray Flowers. Remember, we're now at a new time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. For those of you over at fantasyguru.com, you're aware of this, I'm sure, but just to point it out, there's only 3 games today. So there's no cash game breakdown today at fantasyguru.com. We need 5 games for that. So I won't be writing that today. I'll return to writing it tomorrow. Yes, we will have one on July 4th, which I hate because that means I'm going to work a 16-hour day on July 3rd. Okay. But we'll have it up. Let's talk some FAAB. Let's not woe is me, Ray. You got a pretty good job. Oh, by the way, before we talk FAAB, we'll get to that in 1 second. We did just lower our price for DFS baseball. If you want to get the cash game breakdown or the GPP breakdown or the cheat sheets, $99.99 the rest of the season. So you get half the year for less than half the price. It's a great product. The team is killing it. I've talked about it a lot. We really have had a lot of success here in the last couple of weeks in particular. So that's been discounted at $99.99. And we've also discounted our gaming portion of baseball. where myself, Ted Schuster, Jeff Manns, MLB model Rob Brink often do bets on a daily basis. $99.99 for that. So if you want to get in the Discord rooms, have discussions about setting lineups, talk to the folks about placing bets. Do you want the information to help you have success doing that? We've got those products available at fantasyguru.com, and they're available at a discount. And they are some pretty good products because they're coming from some pretty good people over at the site. All right, let's talk some Fabioni. By the way, do you like the background there for those of you watching? The sausage races, but it's in Oakland. You can't see because my head's in the way. Obviously, the one guy's Raleigh Fingers. The other guy's Dennis Eckersley. And the guy in the middle is Ricky Henderson. These are three guys, if you've seen the sausage races, in Washington or in Milwaukee, the president's races, whatever. It's the guys with the big foam heads. And I've got an athletics photo from years ago. So we've got Fingers, Henderson, and Dennis Eckersley. Just thought that'd be sharing that for a second. So let's talk FAAB. Let's throw it up on the screen here. We'll talk 3 FAAB leagues I'm in. This is the first league is the let me get rid of that so we can see a little bit better. The first league is the let me say this again. It's Tout Wars. I'm having a problem talking here. Tout Wars is the only 12-team league I'm in. It's a 12-team league, 5x5, but the scoring is different. We use innings pitched instead of victories. We use solds instead of saves. And we use on-base percentage instead of batting average. So this is like a league that's right near and dear to my heart. Here's the FAAB this weekend. Gary Sanchez got hurt. He's on the injured list. Higashioka was added for 24. We'll talk about him in a little bit because I added him in the league. Velasquez was released for the addition of James Wood. James Wood in this league went for 254. In some of my leagues, not this one, but in some of my leagues, you can't add minor league players. You can't add players that are on the injured list. You can't add players that are suspended. In all of my, in 2 of my 3 leagues that we talk about here, Tout Wars is one of them. If you add a player, they've got to go into your lineup. Pretty interesting that James Wood went for 254. I'm in that league. I'm actually in first place right now. Let me verify that. I was yesterday, and I shouldn't talk out of turn. I am in first place right now. And let's see, available players, transaction logs. There we go. Transaction log. Who else bid on him this weekend? Let's see, how big were the bids? I'm looking here. I don't think there was I think that was clearly far and away the biggest bid. Wow. There was a bid at 227 was the next up. So 254, the next one was 227. So that's pretty close. I'm at, transaction logs, I'm trying to figure out how to do this here, folks. Place bid, master bids. There we go. It doesn't even show me. I don't have time to figure this out. I want to say I have 350 of my 1,000 left, something like that. I am in first place. I'm doing well. So there's not a need to blow things up here and get super aggressive with my spending. So that's why I didn't get involved. But I'm surprised that the price point was there. As I said earlier, 40, 50%, I wouldn't be shocked by. This is one of the leagues where he wasn't added, and he was there. And so again, maybe I was too aggressive earlier based upon this league I was, because we have 227 and a 254 bid. It also comes down to, how much money people have spent. Sometimes people save money. Most of my leagues, if they're not AL or NL only, most of my leagues are really active. So everyone's spending $10 here and $30 here kind of thing out of their $1,000, right? So most people don't save money. If people in your league are saving money, they're saving it for a guy like James Wood. Heston Kjerstad went for 113. That's not a bad addition. We don't know how much he's going to play. There's obviously we've talked about that here on the show many times. He had a nice week last week. Didn't play every day, but had a nice week. He's a really impressive talent. And if he were to play every day, that bid's going to look good. If he doesn't play every day and he struggles a little bit, but again, 11% of your budget, take a chance on Kjerstad in that lineup with his skill set. I'm okay with that. $85 for Miguel Sano. I'm not okay with that. Again, Sano, going to the waiver wire and finding a legitimate 30 home run bat is not easy to do. That's who Sano is. Would I have done that? No. And how good has he been since he's returned? Let's look at him real quick before I totally dismiss him as a useless addition. It's nice that he's finally healthy now and he's all better and all that. Yeah, 1 for his last 16. I almost want to say, and I don't know this, but 8 and 5 are really close to each other on the keyboard. Could that have been a mistype? Maybe. 36 for Hayden Wesneski. Whether he sticks in the rotation or not, we'll see with the Cubs. You and I have talked about Wesneski. I love the skill set. The Cubs, we're still waiting for Ben Brown to come back and all that. So maybe Wesneski is a solid addition at a solid price point. And if he sticks in the rotation, which again, that could be significant. I got multiple squirrels over there looking at me. We have a black squirrel with a really skinny tail. That's a different black squirrel. We have a couple black squirrels. I don't know if you have squirrels. We have black squirrels. There he is. He's eating a peanut. Okay, back to it. Milner for $12. Knack is a really interesting addition. He is somebody that I bid on in another one of my leagues. He is, for now, pitching for the Dodgers. Oh, I assume that's going to be the case moving forward still. But he is basically in the rotation because of the fact that the Dodgers are without Walker Buehler. They're obviously without Clayton Kershaw is working his way back. So Landon Knack right now is in the rotation. And he's been very effective. He's made 6 trips. I'm looking at right now, 6 trips to the hill. He's allowed 7 runs. Yeah, I can't count. Yeah, 7 runs. Really good work. And only one of them has been 6 innings. All the other ones have been 4 2/3 or 5 exactly. So they're clearly not letting him go deep into the game here. But to date, he's got a 2.1 ERA, a .96 whip, just under a strikeout an inning, just about a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Like, that's a really, again, my team in this league at least is doing okay, especially on the pitching side of things. But that's a good addition. If he's available in your league, I don't mind that at all. You can't get aggressive because I don't know how long he stays in the rotation, but if you're talking about a 5-6% bid, go for it. Lance Lynn has been pitching better the last couple of times out. He went for $32. I put a bid at, I think it was 26 to Adam, something like that, 22. So I was right in that same zone, but I was outbid for Lynn. He is what he is. He's effective. Home runs can get him. He hasn't had a bunch of big outings this year, though he's pitched a little bit, but last time out he pitched well. He's lost a little bit of the strikeout oomph. Kind of a streamer. But again, at this price point, who cares? Ryan Presley for 15, good. Clemens for 5, Peterson 21, Noel for 89. It's an on-base percentage league. He does take a walk. He strikes out a ton. It's unclear how much he's going to play for the Guardians. Let's not forget that Manzardo is down on the farm right now too, and Manzardo is killing it. He's killed it all year long when he's down on the farm. So Noel will get a chance to prove he deserves to be in the lineup. Again, price point. He could hit 30 home runs the rest of the way. He could have a 30 home run pace the rest of the way. But there are concerns about his ability to make contact. Wrote about him last week over at fantasyguru.com. Arrighetti for $2, Wisely for 4, Bowers for 3. Speaking of Bowers, Tyler Black's gone again. Like, I don't understand what the Brewers are doing. I've wasted in FSGA league, I think I wasted $75 of the 1,000. One time it's like 40, one time it's like 35. Added Black, dropped them, added Black. I don't know what the Brewers are doing. Jake Bowers, they prefer. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know if there's a personality thing going on. I don't really understand this. Bottom line is, if you have Tyler Black and you're not in a keeper or dynasty league, it's not happening. I don't know why, but it's not happening. Let's go to LABR. Let me add that back on. There it is. Okay. 15-team league here, $100 instead of $1,000. As you can see here, Heston Kjerstad, who went for 5%, the last one for 7% here. Other bids of $4, $5, and $6. So that's the price point that people are in. These leagues are 5 outfitter leagues. Your league may be less than that. So people in that 5% range. And again, we've talked about Kjerstad a lot here on the show. Johanski Noel awarded for $5 here out of the 1,000. A little less, 9% last time out, 5% here. Not many guys get called up that have the ability to be the power hitter that Noel can be. Though, as we discussed, and it was in the article last week, there are concerns with him. Hayden Wesneski for $4. A couple of failed bids, 2, 2, and 1. David Festa went for $3. Failed other bids for 3, 3, and 2. I was one of the $3 bidders. I had it at 4, and I backed it off to 3. I ended up, as you can see down there a little bit further, with Jose Quintana. The reason was because I'm down to, like, out of the 100, I think I'm down to about $28 right now, and it's halfway through the year. So I said, Festa, look, is he going to stick? I love his talent, but the first start was a little messy. Are the Twins going to keep him in the rotation? Is he, so I was like, and I backed off to save a couple of bucks. That's 2 roster moves later in the year because we can't add guys in FAAB for $0. They have to be $1. So I was cautious there. Next time out, Quintana is going to face Washington in Washington. Then his next outing would be against Pittsburgh. So 2 outings that I, didn't feel bad about. Whether it turns out to be the right move or not, whether Festa sticks and dominates, we'll see. But the last 3 times out for Quintana, he's got 21 strikeouts in 16 innings, and his WHIP is 1-1. And again, the 2 matchups coming up aren't bad. Leotos Tavares went for $3. Failed bids of 1-1 and 1. Luis Matos for 2. Bunch of failed bids there. Higashioka went for 1 here to Fred Zinke. Fred also added Tyrone Taylor, Mauricio Dubon, and Whit Merrifield for $1. Whit Merrifield, did he have a great week? Did I miss? Pull him up real quick. Whit Merrifield has been freaking dreadful. No, the last 2 weeks hitting 167. I assume he's going to play every day because obviously Harper and Schwarber are out. So we're hoping to catch a little bit of lightning in a bottle there for $1. Porter Hodge went for $1. Nick Gordon went for $1. Hunter Renfroe went for $1. And you can also see there Stuart Fairchild went for $1 for me. I had an open roster spot because of an injury situation. He is not a big name player. Stuart Fairchild, by the way, he plays for the Reds. But look at his performance of late. And, he's getting some playing time here, and he's going to stick in the lineup for at least the short term, I think. You look at him the last week. Let's look at the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks got 7 RBIs, 5 steals. That ain't bad, right? Scored 4 runs. The last week, 6 RBIs and 4 steals. He was 8 for his last 26. Doesn't have a walk. He's not a big on-base percentage guy. He's not a big batting average guy. But he is on pace, if he were to get 450 plate appearances, to go about 1030. I mean, to be very TJ Friedel-ish. I created a word. Playing for TJ Friedel basically right now. So not a bad pickup, I hope. The numbers say it was a fine pickup for the $1 price point. Finally, the FSGA. As you can see there, Noelvi Marte in this league. In this league, the FSGA, you can't add players that are on a suspended list. So I tried for weeks to add Marte, couldn't. So I did try to take my own advice. It was not an option for me. Don't yell at me for not. Why did you not get him, Ray? Well, yeah. He went for 278. The bid of mine was the 3rd highest. You can see there it was 178 was my price point. There was another bid at 234. So both Noelvi Marte and James Wood were in that 22-25% range with the bids, or 22 to 28% bid range. Lots of bids for Marte, obviously. We've discussed him previously and written about him over at fantasyguru.com. Noel went here for 43. So Noel went from 4 to 9%, somewhere right there, right around there this week. Stuart Fairchild, who we just talked about, who I got for $1, which would have been $10 here, went for 38, a little bit more expensive. Justin Turner, there we go, for 37. We talked about him earlier. The failed bid was $3 for Justin Turner. I don't mind that. You always waste money in FAAB. We all know it. I don't mind going a little bit aggressive to get my guy because I got 1,000 units. Initially, I think I had 17 for Turner. Maybe it was 17 or 22, and then I said, "Oh, what the hell? I'm just going to get him." So I went to 37. It was a waste. Could have won him for 17 or 32. But David Festa here in this league, I was able to get him for the $34. So again, I was in the 30s this week with my bids in this league. As you can see there with the failed bids, luckily I went to 34 because if I had done 27, I wouldn't have got David Festa. In this league, 29, 29, 22. So other bids right along line with him. Looking at my pitching staff, Walker Buehler went on the injured list last week. I lost Lazardo to the injured list. I lost Clark Schmidt to the injured list. I needed a boost. And so Festa was added. And I got to remember, since I added him, I have to put him in my lineup this week. I almost did a faux pas there. Ray Flowers. You got to do that in no, you don't have to do that in this league. Actually, never mind. I take that back. This league, you don't have to do that. Okay. Who is David Festa facing this week? Let's look that up. That would be a good thing to know as we're talking about this here. David Festa of the Twins. Probable. Where are my probable pitchers? Jeez, Ray. Sometimes this goes easy. Sometimes it doesn't. This week, Festa's set to face the Tigers, and then he'd face the White Sox with his next outing. So, not bad at all. But anyway, I think that price point was fair to get him. And as I discussed, others were right there with me. Landon Knack, who we just talked about, 31 was the winning bid. Secondary bid was 22. Right there with Festa. Very similar price points there. Roansy Contreras for 29, same thing. David Peterson for 29, same thing. I didn't bid on either one of those guys. Higashioka went to me for $13. This one is interesting. I have an injured catcher in Luis Camposano. And I picked up Kenley Jansen to be my next guy. And then who's my other catcher that got hurt? I had another catcher. It was Gary Sanchez that got hurt. So then I had to pick up Higashioka. It's like I'm 4 catchers deep in a 15-team league with 14-team league with 2 catchers. My God. Higashioka has been crazy. The last 2 weeks, he's played 9 games. He's got 4 home runs and 15 RBIs. Now, clearly. Got 1,100 OPS those last 9 games. Last 17 games, his OPS 1,100. So he's in a really nice groove right now. And I will ride him and then just make the decision on what to do when Luis Camposano is healthy. But for now, I added a guy that's going pretty well and was a completely necessary piece for my team because woof city. All right. Further down on this list, who else do we got here? Hunter Renfroe went for 8. That's a solid bit. Hunter Renfroe's hitting 300 the last 10 games he's played, showing a little bit of power. Hunter Renfroe, let's pull him up real quick. With the Royals back from injury. His last 15 games, he's got 4 home runs and hitting 333. So he's actually found his stroke after a really tough start to the season. Mitch Haniger, don't care about Mitch Haniger. I actually dropped Mitch Haniger in this league last week. Keibert Ruiz went for $3. Again, I added Higashioka. The secondary catcher was Ruiz. I put them both at 13. I got Higashioka, so I didn't get Keibert Ruiz. Belazzo went for $2. Scott Barlow for $1. Jake Myers for $3. So some little moves there rounding things out. So that's kind of what we have with FAAB. Hopefully that makes some sense. We're able to talk about some extra players there. We do that every Monday here on the show. Again, remember 12 o'clock Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday here. Wednesday and Tuesday will be live. I should have said Tuesday, Wednesday will be live. Thursday, Friday will be recorded. The Thursday show on July 4th, again, will be a review of the all-time fantasy baseball team that we drafted. Justin Benjamin and I over at fantasyguru.com. So a full show on that. Friday, the show will be my FSGA Champions League fantasy football review, a 14-team PPR setup. I was drafting 11th out of the 14 teams. I was actually hosting while drafting on SiriusXM. And I did something that I don't ever remember doing. So stay tuned to Friday to find out why I did what I did and how it actually turned out pretty well considering. Yeah, something to think about. All right, let's look at some comments here in the Discord or chat room. So Heroic Doses said, what up, Ray? Jumped over to YouTube. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate our discussion today in the chat room as well. I know that we didn't agree, but I appreciate it. And you were civil. And I always appreciate that, folks. I'm not always right. I have my opinions. I'm not always right. You can have a different opinion and not be wrong. Well, let's just have a discussion where it's okay, right? Let's not call each other names. Let's not get pissed off. Let's be civil. Both of us were today, I think. I like that. Brandon A says, good morning in the fam. Happy Friday, everyone. Yeah, you're always on Fridays, Brandon. I'm looking forward to Friday this week. It's actually going to be a day off. Please, Ray. Heroic Doses, thoughts on Churios this week and moving forward. Just dropped Verdugo for him for the 4 cores. I mean, I think it's do I like dropping Verdugo? No, not at all. I don't. Churios shouldn't be on the waiver wire, though. And, you know, you look at Churio and his dynamic nature. You look at his ability to navigate a zone in Colorado the next 4 days, as you noted. 3 days in LA, that's not, but the first 4 days. But bottom line is Jackson Churio doing kind of what we were talking earlier with Wyatt Langford, doing it better because he's been better for the duration of the season, but kind of doing the same thing. Was started out well, then got really cold, and then there was concerns. Are they even going to demote him, drop him in the order? What's the last 2 weeks? He's hitting 350. The last month, he's hitting 315 with a 900 OPS. I'm very surprised Churio was on the waiver wire. Like, he's a young guy with special talent who for a month now has been really good. 24 games played, 16 RBIs, 14 runs scored. Really good. I like adding Jackson Churio. I think that's a good move. Again, I don't love dropping Verdugo, but in these shallow leagues, you got to do what you got to do. Angela said, I added Churio. He's at Coors the next few days. Boy, folks, it must be nice. I'll just say that. It must be nice. I'm running the waiver wires and it's Stuart Fairchild, and you guys are getting Jackson Churio. Must be nice. Glad you did it, though. Warm with winds gently blowing out to the right, according to Kevin Roth. Kevin Roth, who does a great job giving a weather report for those of you that are looking for someone that does that. He does. Warm weather with gently winds blowing out. Love hearing that. Angela, thanks for sharing it. Heroic Doses, you just freaked my dog out with that hideous coming out of my speaker. What? With that hideous coming out of my speaker? Okay, I guess I talked crap. I don't know what I said. All right. Chris D, morning, Ray. Will James Wood affect Winker's playing time? I'm going to say at this point in time, no. As we mentioned earlier in the show, Eddie Rosario's been released or DFA'd. I don't know. It was one of the two. I'm drawing a blank right now what it is. But the bottom line is he's gone. So what my expectation will be is that we're going to see an outfield of Lane Thomas, Jacob Young, and James Wood, with Winker being at the DH. Maybe they platoon a little bit. Maybe Winker gets a little bit more of that, but I think that for the most part, as we sit there right now, at least until Joey Gallo returns, I don't think Winker loses playing time at the moment. And again, he's been one of the more effective offensive players. And truthfully, they probably would love to trade him. So I would anticipate he continue to play the most days. I'm not worried about that right now. I'm hoping this is the Cheerio breakout party. Got sick of Verdugo in those chains. Yeah, the chains are kind of I agree on that. That's a little ridiculous. James Wood is currently, Angela says James Wood is currently about 25% owned on ESPN. I don't get it. And I mean, I really wonder public leagues. I wonder, if people draft in public leagues to do a draft. Like in the old days, we had Mock Draft Central. If you're older, you remember Mock Draft Central. You could go with your friends. You can go with strangers. You could go and face the computer, and you could do an actual draft, right? You can do draft theories, take a closer early, take a catcher early. How does it turn out? Don't really have that much anymore. So I wonder if people do leagues that are free public leagues to prepare themselves to do their home league or to prepare themselves to do the NFBC or whatever it might be. Because there's no possible way James Wood should be owned in 25% of leagues. That's crazy. It's crazy. Now, another thing, if you're in ESPN 10-team leagues, 3 outfielder setups, again, that's the traditional is a 12-team league with 5 outfielders starting. If your setup is 10 teams and 3 outfielders, a guy like James Wood may not be. Does your league have IO spots? That number's too low. That's crazy. And if you're in an ESPN league, lucky you because you got to grab James Wood. And then Heroic Doses just icked up Turner for fill-in to Schwarber this week. Yeah, good addition there. And all good, man. I love your perspective. A great discussion. Yeah, you too, Heroic Doses. See, the love continues here. Even if we don't agree, we're having a discussion. Heroic Doses. And if you are interested in this, go to fantasyguru.com, go to the Discord section. There's a different kind of setup that's kind of a melding of like head-to-head and roto. And Heroic Doses says it works really well because it keeps people engaged. People don't quit and walk away early. My point was that, do head-to-head or do roto. Don't do both. Don't do total points. I didn't like the fact that there was one setup for the regular season and then playoffs were different. For me, that's not attractive. But if it's attractive for you, go for it. I want everyone to play fantasy baseball. Whatever format works for you, play it. So again, go over to fantasyguru.com, go to the Discord room for seasonal baseball, and you can see that discussion. Mark Peterson chimes in here before we go. Mookie Betts has still started 19% of Yahoo leagues. So 1 in 5 aren't even really playing. Yeah. And again, I wonder if is it also that people drafted a team and 4 other guys got hurt and they just gave up? Like they just walked away? I mean, obviously sometimes life's going to get in the way and that kind of thing, but that's not 20% of people when it's hundreds of thousands probably playing on Yahoo, maybe millions of people playing on Yahoo. I don't get it, So that's one of the reasons too why it's always hard to do a FAAB article, because you see stuff like that and it's like, goodness gracious, man. If I'm writing a FAAB article, and James Wood is available, I am assuming all these kind of things. And then I see James Wood's available in 3/4 of the leagues, according to Angelo. 3/4 of the leagues on ESPN, he was available. Like, wow. And again, in my leagues, most of my leagues, he was drafted and been held on to for 2.5 months or 3 months. Like he's been literally been held on to for 3 months with 0 production, right? And he's available in 75% of leagues. Ugh. So it's always tough to do that. Trout's 11% started, according to Mark. Wow. That ain't good. Check your teams, folks. Well, I know that we give advice to help you win in fantasy. If you're playing people that are doing things like this, you're going to win. So let's hope that that's your league. Now let's hope that's not your league. Let's hope everyone's involved and interested in your league. Let's hope they're paying attention. Let's hope they're doing good things. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the interaction today. Again, head over to Discord to ask questions, to read the interactions we have over there. If you want more on that hybrid baseball league that includes Roto and head-to-head, you can find that over in the Discord. You can find my rankings. I'm going to go and finish those up today. Full 600-plus players re-ranked. Those will be posted today. I'll try to get to the Solds rankings also today. I'll be on the Elite Sports Game Time show later tonight with Justin Fensterman from 8 to 10 Eastern Time. Remember, that's the final week of this show, or that show, I should say, excuse me. The SiriusXM show with Justin and I will be on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then that's it. That's the end of that run. This show, Fantasy Sports Daily, will continue on at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday. And I'll also be on Jeff Band's on the Elite Sports Show. I'll be on with him Wednesdays, as always. That show is Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Thanks for the show today. Thanks for listening. Tell a friend about the free show. That'll always help us out a little bit. So if you get a chance, please do that. And head over to FantasyGuru.com. I'm on social medias and such as well at the Ray Flowers. Have a great Monday. I'll talk to you again on Tuesday. Again, I'm Ray Flowers for Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com.